Oh, hi guys, it's Emma again. Welcome back to the spare room. My friend John Creasy down in Sydney has cut me a new thread for this. If we remember, the old one actually broke off the end because it's just too thin. It's had a thread down the end with a nut on it, very similar to the other hand wheels. And it was time for a new one. This is also a little bit short because it's been adjusted and modified a few times. So we got a new thread, which is square, a left hand thread, 10 TPI, and it's pretty nice really. It's not too bad for the age of the machine. This hand wheel's going to go on there, or on a bit further down. That's about the end of our travel there, I think. This little bridle here has got a groove in it, and that fitted on the original like that. And that goes on those two holes there. So today's job is to machine the end of this so that this fits back on to match that, and to machine the end of this so that this fits in here, and to set this up in the four jaw and drill in and tap in for a grub screw, hold it all in place, and we're going to be starting to look something like it's supposed to. So first job, I think this has got a first job I think is got a centre hole in the end, is to set this up in the lathe and machine this down to fit that little bridle, and to machine this end down so that the hand wheel fits on. So let's get in and do it. So I decided the first job was to set this up and to make that a pretty good fit on there with the grub screw. So we've got the hand wheel on there. Next job is to turn it round. And it's got a centre hole in this end too. And basically we need to machine the end of this a little bit, just so that this recess just sits on the screw nicely. And that's the groove. John's already put a piece on the end here that works just nicely, and it's a pity to machine it off, but I have done, because this end here has to thread through the nut, so that's why it's made like that. And that piece is on there. We've got the other end made up. Just for comparison, it's about that much longer, so that's more than enough. Next job will be to saw this off, give this thread here a bit of a clean up, and we'll have a bit more of a look. So there we are, back in business. I've got two screws left over, which are the last two screws to go in it. I'm pretty impressed about that, and they both fit and they're both right, so I've got something right. This goes back on here and looks pretty reasonable. Still needs a grub screw in it to retain it, so that's the next job. And probably the only real way to do that is to set that up in the four jaw chuck, and nice and flat against there, and drill him and tap him. So that's the next job. So I've messed around and I've set this up. Nice and on centre, just with a centre punch. You can calculate this out and set it up nice and secure, probably better than this. And the way I would do it is to measure the distance between, or the difference between the two balls, and put a parallel stack under here and a parallel under here, so that it's right that way, and probably so it's right that way. Now I've just set it up by eye, and we've got a hole here with a flat on it, so that's our reference point really, and I've set that parallel with the jaw, so it shouldn't be far out. And it's a curved surface, so it's certainly, as long as it's 90 degrees to the surface, it's not going to matter very much. So first thing I did was find a grub screw and a tap, because there's nothing worse than either drilling it out and tapping it and finding you've got to go and get a grub screw, or finding a grub screw and then finding you've got to go and get the tap. So we're nearly through. I'm feeling pretty unorganised here today, so these videos are a bit sketchy to do this job. I feel like every time I turn around I lose something, and it's probably mostly because I've got a machine pulled down and I've got about 4 or 5 projects on the go. I've got 2 clocks that I'm repairing here too for some pocket money, and I've got the shaper in bits. There's a million jobs that I've got on the go. Once the tap's started, there's a little bit more control over it just by hand here. I don't want to break a tap in this after all this work. So there we go. That grub screw's a little bit long, and I'll probably either make a slot head one that looks nice and sits flush and probably matches the rest of the machine, or find one or buy one or something, or find a shorter one even. A bit of oil on that, and I'm pretty pleased about that. The jib there probably needs to be tightened up, and there's a million other little projects on this, and it does need a stand. I'm not going to bolt it down to the bench here because I don't want holes in my bench top, and I'm going to make a nice little stand for it with some storage under it, because this machine up against the bench is a bit of a pain, and you've got to shift stuff every time you want to use it. It needs a little oil chip pan on it, and it wants to be about this height, which is about 1 metre off the ground. So that's another job done. it all appears, if you have a look, to be pretty straight. There's no wobble in it. The only other real job to do on this machine before I can say it's ready ready for use is that one of these holes that clamp the vice jaw down on the table is stripped, so that's a little job to fix. And it needs a bolt in the back here that holds this head on, because I've just got a hex bolt in there and it's pretty ordinary. And the old one broke, if we remember. And that's that. So thanks for watching, guys and girls, and big thanks to my new subscribers and to everyone who leaves a comment and gives me a thumbs up. YouTube's a wonderful thing for getting things finished, and I'm pleased this is done. And more soon.